Welcome to the Brickworks Podcast, an extension of the studio based here in Burnham-on-sea. Our aim for this podcast is to have a completely open forum for conversation. This could be about art, life, mental health, or even how the world is burning down around us right now. Whether you're listening to this whilst on a run or relaxing at home, we hope you enjoy our mild-mannered rambles. Thank you. How are you doing, man? How's everything going? I know we just had a conversation about quite a lot, actually. I love having the conversations before the podcast for some reason. It's part of it. I don't know why. It's like just sitting down having a coffee, you know? It feels so chilled.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't beat a coffee. Coffee and smoke.
True.
Yeah.
You know what was crazy? I couldn't find a cafetiere anywhere in this town. Literally, I broke our cafetiere last week. Completely forgot to order one on Amazon, and I've been just trying to find like a cafetiere or a French press nowhere in Burnham. I had to go to Bridgewater to buy one.
Kidding?
I was like, what the fuck? No B&M, nothing. Nowhere sold them. Okay. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Oh my God.
Yeah. The strains of being a hipster, man. Like, you need to have
I'm not a hipster, but I feel your pain.
Yeah, good coffee, man. You got to have good coffee, otherwise nothing productive happens.
No. First thing in the morning, first thing I do, go downstairs, put the kettle on, coffee and a fag. I'm not even thinking straight until I've done that.
It's just become muscle memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Got so used to doing it. I think we've all got, what is going on with my voice? Whenever I sit down to podcast, my voice goes so... It's not COVID-19, don't worry. Anyone listening or watching, I'm healthy, ish.
I've had my jab.
I was going to say, you must have had your vaccine.
I had it on the 24th of January.
That must feel quite good to have your vaccine in a way. Like,
yeah.
To just be like, okay, cool, I can chill a little bit now.
Yeah, I went home and sort of... told all the kids that I was now, like Spider-Man. And
can survive anything.
Yeah. And it was really easy. Just didn't even sit down. No, just went in, just stuck it in straight out.
It sounds like a bit of a conveyor belt.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think they've got to be though.
Honestly, they're doing so many people per day. It's crazy.
I think, places all yesterday on the news were doing 800 a day.
Fuck, 800 people
was
a day.
Was it 800 a day? I think it was 800. Yeah, something like that.
That is a lot of people to be doing it in one day.
All throughout the whole of the country. Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense why there's 20-something million now. My dad's off to get his Friday, so he gets his vaccine Friday. He's part of the over 60s club. I don't think he's very happy about being part of the over 60s club, but there we are.
Well, my dad had his the day after mine. Went to Locking. He was part of the over 70s club. So,
it's good that it's happening though, I think.
It is, and it's being rolled out pretty quickly now. So
yeah, it is. I think we were having a bit of a chat before this about like the longevity of all of these restrictions and kind of like how it's fucking with everyone's head a little bit. I think like
big style.
Yeah, man,
big style. And I think if people think it's going to be gone in 6 months, they got another thing coming. We're going to have to live with this for a long time. Yeah. Especially things like face masks. Yeah. They're going to be around for a good few years, I think.
Totally. Well, it's interesting because like a lot of Asian countries use face masks anyway. It's like a common courtesy when they have a cold or anything like that. They wear face masks
on the train. I remember when SARS hit, and everybody was already wearing them.
Yeah.
So
which is it's interesting to see like all of like the anti-maskers and all of those sort of like counter-intuitive groups. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but like it's really interesting that other cultures just have been adapting to that way of life.
Yeah. Even if you put aside COVID and, any other disease like that, the pollution in the air is, people seem to be forgetting about that. Even if you don't believe in COVID, you can't not believe in the pollution in the air.
No.
You can see it coming out of the exhaust of cars. And, people who are moaning, that everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but feel sorry for the people who have to wear them for 12 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, especially in your line of work, exactly. It must have been quite an intense adoption to it.
You can't take them off. And,
no.
We had a batch last week and the string was a bit too short. And so ears at the end of the day were just agony.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah. That must be such a pain.
Yeah, literally. So, but it is what it is, isn't it?
I think it's the price we have to pay in a way. It's like my mother has. She's very much like an environmentalist. Not by any means does she attend protests or anything, but she's been going on about something like this happening for a long time. She's been talking about how the rainforest being cut down and all of these things has caused these issues.
It was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was going to happen if you mess with nature. And historically, every couple of 100 years, there's always been a big epidemic. It was the Spanish flu in 1915 or something.
Yeah. Turn of the century.
The plague, every couple of 100 years is something.
Yeah, something was definitely coming.
That's just nature, isn't it?
It is, man, it is. But it is a bit daunting to think like the impact that the virus has had, not the actual virus though, like, on people's lives. And like I was saying to yourself earlier, it's like I had a huge like mental blip over the weekend just gone. And it's like a lot of that's attributed to lockdowns and restrictions and the restrictions that I'm feeling personally on my life. And it's scary to think, like, to quote yourself from earlier, like, it's scary to think that we might have accidentally created, like, a scarred generation from this.
Absolutely. This will live as people for a long time. And, I do think it'll have a lasting effect on the younger generation, because they've not encountered anything like this before.
No.
None of us have encountered anything like this before, but some of us who've got a few more sort of years under the belt have at least been through trying times of war and
of course.
But this is something that was so unseen and we were just so unprepared. And
do you think for yourself, like, having your boys and they're off at uni, well, not so much at the moment, like, have your sort of perspective on this pandemic must be sort of drastically different to like myself in a way?
I suppose so. Obviously when you've got a large family at home, you do worry about them when they're out and about. But by and large, my boys, I've got 5 of them, and they're all grown now. So the youngest is 19. So I think it probably for families where the children are younger, especially those who'd be going back to school next week, if that was myself and my kids were due to go back to school next week, I would be...
it'd be this weird, I would have thought this weird tension that you would be feeling in a way.
I think so.
I could imagine that must be, like, for those that are dealing with that, it must be really trying, like really stressful in a way, And I think, I've got 2 siblings, 2 siblings back at home now, my sister and my cousin, and sort of talking to them a little bit about like their mental health through this pandemic. We've all been working, like all of us in our family have been working throughout this pandemic, which I think has grounded us quite a lot. Myself working here, my sister's in retail and all those things. But it's almost this added stress, you know what I mean? Like, there's the daily stress of life, getting up at whatever o'clock, going to work, etc. But then it's like, oh yeah, this global pandemic, I've got to make sure I've got my face mask, my hand sanitizer, I've got to make sure I'm not too close to X, Y, and it burns you out real quick, man.
Oh,
it does real quick,
you know. And I don't think there's many people who aren't feeling it. There might be a couple, but not many, because it's just gone on so long now.
Yeah.
Yeah, strange times.
Very much so, man. And I think we're all trying to find ways of dealing with it. Like, you know, yourself has been making a lot of art recently. We were having a conversation.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But I was having a conversation the other day, and I was saying I can't imagine how people must feel who don't have hobbies like that. Because, you know, I've got loads of hobbies. You know, I love reading, I love watching films. Obviously, you know, I love my drawing and my painting. But I've got friends who've got no hobbies, and I think, well, what are they doing with all their time? And I think, you know, so myself, I thank my lucky stars that I have got things that I always want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I know my dad sometimes says, you know, being retired, he says, oh, you'll hate it when you're retired. And I'm like, no, I won't. I can't wait.
I can have all this free time.
Yeah, because I never, you know, I have very little downtime. You know, if I'm not out working, I'm painting or I'm cooking, or, you know, I spend a lot of time with my father. You know, so I have very little downtime.
Yeah. I can imagine retirement sounds quite dreamlike.
Oh, God.
Oh, man, I'm so far away from that. You don't even know.
Yeah, it's I'm counting down. It might still be a fairly long count, but
oh, mate, start the count now, though.
yeah.
So you've been creating a lot. I know you were saying that you've been making like loads of pieces. Like, I think a lot of us who are artists have just been using art to try and escape this fucking terrible reality we find ourselves in. And you were showing me this. I'm not going to name the piece because I'm not going to go down that road, but this new piece that you've been working on, like, you've been putting so many hours into that, man.
Yeah, I think it must be 230, 240 hours at the moment.
That's
and I'm thinking
crazy.
It'll be around about 300 when I've finished.
That's mad.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
a
many
big
hours.
Big piece. Yeah, it's been pretty intense.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, especially with the detail, like the detail of your work as well. Like, I think that's so prevalent. Like, when you look at your work, the first thing I notice is it's pencil and monochrome, which is amazing. I love monochrome work, but also the detail in it. Like, we were just looking at that new piece you've been working on and like zooming into it and seeing like every little line. I'm like, fuck, man. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but that's what I love. That for me, that is the best part, is working on really detailed pieces, and I like working on pieces that take a long time. And always, as I get towards the end of them, I'm like, oh, I just want to finish it, and then I'll finish it and I'll think I'm going to have time off now, and within the day I'm sat there thinking, I'm bored.
Yeah,
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then I'll start something else. And I've always been the same, because I get a bit obsessive. Whereas when I'm not drawing, and I've got lots of other things to do, jobs around the house that I've been waiting for years, And all the time I'm thinking, I need to get back and do a bit more. I need to get back and do a bit more.
Yeah.
So it does get a little bit obsessive, which I need to be, a little bit careful about. But I just love it so much.
Definitely. You can see it though. You can see like the passion that goes into like all the detail and then the scale of these pictures that you work on as well. Artwork that you work on. It's like I've always been interested. Where did the eye for detail start? Like, was it something that yourself has always been interested in, like having that almost photorealism?
Well, the photorealism, really. I mean, for a long time, I used to do wildlife, stuff like that, and I tried to get them as close as I could. But it used to be a lot of paints back then, and pre-absorbed watercolour.
Yeah.
And then I suppose about 6 years ago, a friend of mine, he's a very good artist but hadn't drawn for years, asked me some advice on pencils, and he was well into his photorealism, and sort of showed me it, and I started looking at photorealism and saw people like Joan O'Dry and Emmanuel Descano, whose work is just unbelievable.
He has phenomenal stuff.
800 hours a piece.
Yeah.
And since then, I've been trying to work more on sort of trying to get that photorealism, and I'm still not quite there, but I'm getting there.
The piece that you did of Slash, I think it is the Slash piece.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favourites.
No, that's quite an old piece now. That's probably about 12 years old. But that's it was one of my favourites just because Slash contacted me.
No way.
Yeah.
So. How did that go?
Well, I just I treated it to him, not expecting anything back, and the reason I did it is because my wife is a massive Slash fan. Massive Slash fan. She's got a pair of his jeans and his t-shirt at home, which I bought for a birthday. I had to go online and
had to go to that seedy underbelly
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So she's a massive Slash fan, so I did that for her. Anyway, so I treated it to him, and he got back to me within like an hour saying that's an amazing artwork. I'm going to show it to my wife. I can't remember what her name was at the time, and also I woke my wife up and showed her. She was really pissed off because she'd been asleep, and so that was good. But
I've always noticed there's this weird correlation in there when you make pieces about celebrities, like there's these pieces hanging in the podcast area at the moment, and I don't know, it sounds really bad, but I'm too young to know who these characters are, I think, but I think they're from TV.
That's Sid James from Carry On Cleo. That I can't remember his name, but he was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, I think. Can't remember his name, but yeah. But yeah, that's Sid James, that one.
Yeah.
From Carry On.
That shows how I don't know anything. Pre-1995, apart from my fashion. But no, it's really interesting because, like, I think celebrities are quite a good place to start with portraits, like when you're making portraiture, because there's so many images and, like, of celebrities. I think personally I've never painted or drawn a portrait. I can draw a stick man, I'll live with that. But I've always found it interesting, like your portraiture is, you can see like the different celebrities and sort of characters that you've sort of drawn. I also remember the Joker and the Harley Quinn piece is cool as well, and it seems like a really good way of like getting into portrait painting or drawing anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you start doing portraits, if you do people off the street, and then you show it to someone for their opinion. Unless they know that person, they don't know how accurate the picture is or not. But if you do someone off the TV who's a well-known face, and you show it to someone, if they don't know who it is, you're way off.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, I used to really struggle with portraits.
Really?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't think that.
Long time. I only started to get hone my portraits about 5 years ago. And I've been drawing a long time.
Yeah.
But it took me that long. Yeah.
How come it took you that long to get comfortable with it? Because obviously you've been drawing such a long time.
The thing with portraits is you've only got to be a couple of millimetres out.
Yeah,
and it goes from looking like the person you're drawing to looking like someone who vaguely resembles the person you're drawing.
Yeah.
That's it. It's as simple as that. And I used to get to the point where I'd have like the eyes, and the eyes would look perfect, and you'd have the nose, and the nose would look perfect, and the mouth would look perfect, but you put them all together,
didn't work.
It didn't work. And for a long time, my wife used to say, maybe you should stick with your animals, because your wildlife pictures are great, but you're not quite getting it with the portraits. And then suddenly it clicked. I think you've just got to keep going and keep trying.
Totally.
And nothing worth having comes easy.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah.
And so it's just.
I've always found like the composition of portraiture really interesting. Like, I'm not sure if composition is the correct terminology, but like you were saying, like getting the spacing between the eyes and the nose and all those things. Like, it must be really tricky to sort of, because when it comes to taking a portrait, so like for me, from a photography background, taking a portrait is, in the grand scheme of things, quite simple. You just have to make sure they're posed correctly, lighting's good, those sort of things. But drawing a portrait, you have to deal with the posing, the lighting, the composition, but then on top of that, you've actually got to draw the person to a lifelike manner, whereas I'm just capturing them in life, so it's this whole other element of making a portrait.
I mean, I think it's become easier nowadays because you've got so many software tools at your fingertips with your phone. So if you're drawing a portrait and the picture's quite bright, so you edit your picture, you put a filter on, you make it darker, bring out the shadow, and then you can use the shadow to gauge the distance between the eye and the nose, and then you just keep using different variations of that image to piece the face together. And so that's an advantage that newer software has brought to the market, so to speak.
Yeah, of course. Because you're still old school. Apologies, that might be a little bit rude.
Because I'm old.
I wasn't trying to say that, man. I swear.
You just added school on the end.
It made it cool, But like, you're still, as we said, drawing in pencil, which is like such a raw medium of art, I found, because it's like, going past like the actual pencil, but it's lead, and it's this raw element, and there seems to be this sort of, I don't know, maybe deeper philosophical? No, that's not the word. This deeper meaning, I think, anyways, to like pencil drawing, because it is like a ground element compared to a large majority of portraiture, I suppose, now is obviously has probably primarily been paint, but digital as well, a lot of digital portraiture. I see a lot of that on social media and other platforms of, people using like graphics tablets and Wacomos and all these things to like create portraiture. And it's really interesting to see yourself still going at it with the pencil and still be just as detailed.
Yeah. I mean, I've got sort of mixed views on digital art. I like it and I hate it. I like it because I like what I see. I hate it because I was approached by a couple of big film studios to do artwork. And they went out to a number of artists, but they were only going to pay the ones whose pictures they selected. So I did a few images. So, it's a lot of hours work, and every image that was selected was digital art. And that happened about 4 or 5 times until in the end I was like, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've not got the skills that they're looking for. They're looking for digital art. And that's fine, but they should really make that clear.
Yeah.
But the actual work that I see, a lot of digital art, I think is really good. And but yeah, I'm just to set a new ways, I think, to be able to adapt to that now, and I don't even know whether I'd want to.
I was going to say, would you want to? I don't know if I would want to.
I don't think I would now.
No.
I think when I started doing what I do, because I've got quite a funny sort of history in art, because when I was at school, I was the only one who didn't get into art college. And the reason that the college gave was because I suffered from epilepsy, and they said it would be disruptive for the class. So I sort of lost all motivation in art, and I stopped painting for 10 years. And I started again when I was 28, because my parents went to the parks in America. And,
oh, cool.
They sent me a postcard with a Navajo Indian on it. And my wife was working at night, so I just thought, well, if I can still draw that.
Yeah.
And I drew it, and I was better than I have been 10 years previously. And I've not stopped drawing since then. So I started exhibiting wildlife art with the Marwell International Wildlife Art Society about 2003, and I did that for 3 years. But the standard there was just so high that I mean, these are some of the best artists in the world. Yeah. And to go from being like in a small town where everybody thought your work was great to suddenly going to an exhibition where your work was way down the bottom. Oh my god. But I stuck with it for 3 years, and I think by the time I left Marwell, I was a bit closer to sort of the halfway mark. But I saw so many great artists there that I sort of decided that I wanted to try and be the best artist I could be. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's never been that much about. It's never been about making money or this, that, and the other. It's always been about trying to become the best artist I can. And I think for me, pencil is my path to being the best artist I can be. Because my pencil works better than my acrylic or than my pre-resolved watercolour or any other medium. And pencil's what I love. It's my sort of go-to place.
I think we were saying this earlier, like with artists, we always all find, almost all of us have a medium that we go back to, that is our like baseline medium of creating. Obviously mine's primarily photography. Yourself sounds like it's primarily pencil work, and I think having that strong baseline, this is what I try and say to like younger artists, is find your baseline, find what you're really interested in, and then build off of that, rather than trying to find lots and lots of things that you're interested in at once.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
Yeah, because I think you can then get confused in your creative process and what you're sort of wanting to make in a way. Whereas if you have that base where you know you can go back to and find your level ground to make from, you can then build off of it in other ways, you know. And it sounds like yourself has come almost full circle back to pencil.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's what's the saying? Jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
And you know, I tried various different mediums, but every time, all I wanted to be doing was pencil work, and I'd be doing this other stuff, and I'd be like, as I said to you earlier, it was more of a trial than enjoyment. And you know, I'm not saying I won't ever paint again, or I won't ever do this or do that, but my heart has always been pencil work, and that's what I love to do. And funnily enough, that's the cheapest thing to do, which helps. And but I was lucky in that I found my love of pencil work, you know, at a young age, and it's, you know, it's a shame some people have to wait a long time before they actually find out what they're good at. It's like, you know, Damian Leigh, he's found his niche perfectly now with his display art, and you know, Damian's work's superb. But for a long time, I don't think he was as happy as he is clearly now. Yeah, you know, with his display art, and it's, you know, it's good to see he's found his forte.
Yeah, totally. And I think like exploration is important, you know. I think as artists, like, to explore different mediums, having that baseline's great, but you need to continue to explore. You know, for me it's been very much like exploring with poetry, like at different genres of art rather than different mediums within photography, and I found a lot of growth in that. And it, by no means do I think I'm going to be a great poet. I just like to write, and it gives me a sense of freedom outside of the freedom I feel of making imagery. And I think having those different forms of exploration and different forms of art to play with is vital to continuing like developing your work. And I'm sure you've probably found the same with playing with, you know, acrylics and all these different like forms of creating pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still learning new techniques now. You know, I've learnt new techniques in the last, on this last piece I've been doing. I've tried new techniques that I've never tried before. And, you know, I've been drawing and painting a long time. But of course, you know, a lot of that is, again, the advent of new technology. YouTube. Yeah. There's so many useful you know, clips on YouTube and featurettes, and of course anybody can upload to it. Yeah. And so nowadays I find that sort of invaluable, especially with the hyperrealism stuff, trying to improve on that and seeing how some of the the professionals who are submitting stuff to the ILEX exhibitions, seeing how they do their work and how they compose it. And so I use YouTube all the time nowadays.
Yeah, totally.
Just to research.
Well, it's such a valuable asset, you know. God, yeah. It's really weird because I don't know if you've ever caught this stigma in the art world, but like the idea of watching a how-to is kind of deemed as not wrong, but deemed as like not the way to learn. It's like I've learned so much from watching like YouTubers, photography YouTubers describing artwork and the composition. And
the thing is, as I was saying to you earlier, I'm of an age now where I don't care what anyone thinks.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you do get to an age where you're just like, you know, I haven't got the energy to care what you think anymore. And I've never been I love art, and I love the kind of work that I've always looked at, the artists I've always looked at. But the art world itself I've always found very pretentious and, you know, a bit cutthroat. And I've never really cared that much.
No.
But, you know, if people want to say, oh, that's not the way to learn, that's fine, I don't care. Whatever, you know?
Yeah, do it. I'm going to do it my own way.
I'll do it, you know? I remember at school, they used to tell us to draw a face, you draw the oval, and you draw a line in the middle, and that'll be where the eyes are, and then a line 3/4 of the way down, and that'll be where the mouth was. Well, I've taught art to various students over the last few years. I've always said to them, the first thing I've ever said is, I don't teach the way
they want you
they
to
teach you at school or at university, because I'm self-taught. So I'll teach you the way I do it, the methods I use. And I've always used like what I call the jigsaw method, where if I'm doing a portrait, I'll start on the left eye, and then I'll use a shadow and shading to work out distances. And so, you know, and I'll go through it with the people I'm teaching, and we'll do a piece together. I'll do a bit, they'll watch, then they'll do a bit, and that's how I've always showed people. I think people in the art world would stone me. And that's fine. You know, they say art is, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Totally.
You know, there is no definitive, this is right in art and this is wrong. Because who gave anyone the right to say this is right?
Yeah.
No one did. Anybody who can pick up a pencil and draw has the right to draw however they want to draw.
And whatever they want to draw.
To draw.
Yeah, and it's such a liberating way of looking at art, because I think, you know, for me, I've come from like the educational background very much so. Like I've spent a lot of time studying photography or the art world in general. So it can feel a little bit confined and box-like sometimes, and for me, especially now as an artist, I'm definitely trying to explore and break out of these like boxes in a way. It's interesting.
I think society does that. It tries to control the populace in all ways, and in art by, you know, you should do this and you should do that and you should do the other. And why?
Yeah.
You know, why? And that's all it takes, is for us to say why. And that's not only in art, that's in, you know, in life in general.
Totally.
But yeah, so that's my opinion for what it's worth.
Oh, it's worth a lot, man. I was filming before coming on this podcast with yourself. I filmed like a little thing for the Brickworks Instagram story, and it was I introduced you as the local legend, because everybody I know who's into the arts here in Burnham like knows of yourself and your work, and it's like,
that's nice.
Yeah, it's a great, like a really, like, that's the way I've always seen yourself as well. Like I think this is the first time we've really sat down and had a proper full-on conversation together, because we've always just seen each other in passing or whatever it might be. And I was saying earlier, I always remember at Bozfest 2018, like when I was panicking, pasting some pictures on a wall, I could just see yourself with your headphones, like in your own little world, just drawing your Yoda and like looking at it and being like, fuck, like, like that's crazy.
Yeah, but and that's me, my headphones on, in my own little world.
Yeah.
And it's my go-to place. And
100%.
Yeah, but it's you know, it's nice to know that that people sort of know me for my work and like it. and because I've worked hard to get to the level I'm at. I've
totally
put hundreds of thousands of hours in.
Yeah.
And say I've never been the best salesman, but that's never been what it's about.
No.
And if my work ever is worth anything, my house would be a gold mine, because there's so much of it that I finish and then gets put on the shelf.
You want to donate some to the Brickworks, right?
Well, I might have to.
We've got plenty of
more
space.
Yeah. I've got hundreds of pieces.
I'm sure we can make some space. No, I've always been interested in like your street stuff, like the work that you do on the street. Obviously the piece that was at Bozfest, the board that yourself was doing, but also I know you've done a couple of like shutters, shop shutters and stuff. Like that must be quite an interesting transition, going from detailed pencil work to 12 foot by 12 foot.
Yeah. That shutter that you're talking about, that was because you see, I mean, I'll paint on anything. If someone asks me to paint on something, I'll paint on anything. And of course that shutter was corrugated, so it's not like you can just you've got to get in and out and in and out and in and out, and so where I thought, oh yeah, that's going to take me day and a half, actually took me like a week and a half. So pretty much out of pocket there. But it was fun, and it is nice painting on the street when the sun's shining and people are stopping and chatting to you, and that's all part and parcel of it. And when painting's what you love to do, it's no big effort, is it?
No.
But then I got asked last year, Hard Knocks boxing gym.
Yeah.
Bobby asked me to paint the Hard Knocks sign inside the gym, and because that's just breeze block. Yeah. Painting on breeze block, man. Oh, painting on breeze block. Don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. And then at the end, we finished it, and I turned around, and there's like these massive bits of wood on the floor, and I was like, what are they for? And I think Bobby was like, oh, we're going to put them on the wall. And I was like, well, got to paint them on them. I did it done in like 2 hours. So yeah, I was a bit stupid there, but there we go.
I suppose that's the ground you end up falling in when you're painting on anything, though.
Well, yeah.
No, it's really interesting. Like, I'd love to see, because I'm very much into the street art world. Like, I love that style of creation, and I was very lucky. I went and saw this fantastic new space in Bristol, who's run by like a group called Keep Art It. Anyways, and there was some amazing street artists there painting inside the mall. And I'd love to like see a piece like yours, like that scale, huge. It would, obviously, I dread to think how many hours it would take for you to make something like that. But, for example, the piece that's opposite the Brickworks, something like that would be amazing to see. I
mean, because I used to do a lot of tigers, I did think at one point about like trying to do a big tiger on the wall at one of the festivals. But then, with work and all, I never managed to get to the next festival. So... things get in the way, but I do like a lot of the street art. I love the sharp down, Linton Road, and like you say, the one opposite the Brickworks is probably my favourite.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece. It's a lovely piece. There's a lot of really nice pieces here. In Burnham, and it's a shame that there's not more. It would be great to see more pieces in Burnham, or more of... it's weird. I don't know if you get the same sense as being an artist here, but Burnham is a sort of town that is in a weird position that it could be really fantastic for the arts, because it has everything that it would need for the arts. We've got cinemas, we've got theatre spaces, now gallery spaces, and plenty of walls. But it's not quite there yet. It's like... it needs that big push, and it would get to that point, and it's like, I'd love to see this town to become that hub, that little seaside town that just really adapted to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems almost like the town is torn between different generations. You know, those who are used to seeing the street art and are happy to see it, and those who haven't really seen it before. And of course, in the past, it was always thought to be graffiti, and, you know, and so, and you can understand, you know, from their point of view, having had that
mentality in the past
for many years, you know, it's change is difficult,
of course.
So, but Burnham's a great little town, you know, and there's a lot of good artists here. There's a lot of talent in, you know, not just in art. There's a lot of great musicians.
Yeah, you know? Loads of fantastic musicians.
Yeah, loads of musicians. I often say, or I've often said, it's amazing the number of you know, top athletes we've got around here. I mean, you know, we had the world BMX champion.
Oh yeah, Liam. Yeah.
We've got Paul Anderson, the darts champion.
Yeah.
We've got one of the bare knuckle boxing world champions.
Is it Mason? I think I can't remember. But no, I think it's really interesting that this town, obviously, you know, there's something. You know, this is my hometown now. Pretty much, I've been here 20 years, so it's basically my hometown, and it's really interesting to see, because I've grown up here, the development of the town, you know, and there is, and I work quite closely with the council and other entities, and it is good to see that slowly these things are morphing and the town is changing. And I don't think you could have hit the nail on the head any more than there is a town split between what feels like two completely different ethoses. You know, we're really lucky to have great educations here, like King Alfred School, who are much more, you know, adapt in the art world now. They're becoming much more adapt towards the creative processes anyways. And there is a lot of very talented people in this town, and it's amazing that hasn't been fully utilised yet. You know, we're still in that weird grey area where it's starting to be, but it's not quite there yet. And it's like, it'd be amazing to see over the next 5 years, hopefully, or less. Fingers crossed that it develops and it builds into something.
Hopefully, you know, so long as this bloody pandemic doesn't
take over the world. Yeah. Well, we hope it doesn't.
Fingers crossed.
So, what apart from this new piece that you've been working on, is there anything else that yourself has been sort of new artwork, new projects? I saw you got a little home gym going on at the moment. I was pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been going to the gym for 35 years.
Christ.
35 years.
Yeah.
And you know, this last year it's just been difficult, you know, because when it's become part of your life and you go all the time. Well, you know, I mean, I'm not like I used to. I used to go like 5 times a week when I was younger, but you know, I'd still get in 2-3 times a week. When you've been doing that for 30 years and suddenly you can't go.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with myself?
Totally.
And so yeah, I was just getting a little bit too out of shape. So and then my son found a load of weights in the back shed. So all right. So yeah, doing a bit of that every couple of days.
That's good.
Until we get back in.
Yeah. There's something about being physically active, I think, you know. Yeah. As creatives anyway, I've always found.
Yeah, I think, you know, the having the endorphins generated when you do exercise, I think it really stimulates the creative parts in your brain, and you feel a lot better. If you're going to sit down and draw for 7 or 8 hours, if you don't feel like you can't reach the table because your stomach's in the way, you feel you feel a lot better at the start.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to do a bit of exercise.
That's good though. I agree with you. I think like the serotonin releases and stuff like that, the chemical structure of the mind, not to go down the rabbit hole, but from exercise, it really, it gives you a whole new perspective, especially if you're doing a lot of creating or building or whatever it might be. Yeah. Like I found a really good way of calming the mind to approach those sort of things. Yeah. I've always found like if I've got a big shoot day or something like a client commission, I'll try and get like a really big run in the morning before it. So my body's just like, so my mind's like, okay, cool, we're good. Like we can go to work sort of thing.
I can't say I get many runs in. Me and running just don't see eye to eye.
Well, I didn't see eye to eye with it for a very long time.
I think I'll just sit down and watch Coronation Street instead. But no, I do like to work out with weights, and it's become part of my life.
Yeah, I think staying active is quite important. Like, well, more than quite important. It's I think it's kind of vital in some ways, especially at the moment. I think it's the only release a lot of us have is staying active, and it's one of those things. I think it can feel like this dread, like, but I suppose when you've been doing it for so long, like 30 years, like that's crazy to be going to the gym however many times a week for 30 years. Like that's some discipline. Like
think of all the money I've wasted. I drive a 20-year-old car, mate. Bloody hell, I could be driving. But it's good. You get a good community in the gym. Most of my friends are people from the gym. So, it's always been a sort of core part of my life since I was about 19.
Yeah, totally. That's so good, man. No, that's so good. And I was just thinking, I think that's we've pretty much nailed that podcast. How did you find your first podcast, actually?
It was good. A little bit tongue-tied a couple of times. All right when I sort of start rabbiting on, and then you sort of realise that there's a microphone there, then you get a bit tongue-tied, and your mouth gets a bit dry, and then you think, what did I just say? I sounded like a white tit. That's my life in general.
Honestly, I feel you on that one, man. It's really interesting because like I love this process of sitting down and talking with people. Like I only really started making podcasts like last year. I made my first, back in the first lockdown, I made a podcast series, and I just like fell in love with the communication and the conversation of it all. Like, and that was all through like Skype, that first podcast, whereas this obviously is in person. It's so much better, like sitting here and actually just chatting like in person, and I'm so happy we've been able to like continue to do this. Like I hope that the people that listen or watch these podcasts, they get something from it or get as much from it. See, I just punch the microphone. I do it all the time. That's something to edit out. But I get a lot from these conversations as well. Like I hope that the people listening get the same amount from that as well, and I hope that the people that come on this, like yourself, they find it interesting,
Yeah, I when you sent me the message, I felt, I was quite flattered. I was like,
Well, that's the thing, man. Yeah. It's like, as I said, local legend. I've always wanted to sit down and have a chat with yourself about your work, because I've always seen it, whether it's on social media or in person.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to see it a few times, and
I think, it's one of those things, when you're the person doing that work, it's almost like you can't see the wood for the trees. You're too close to it, so you don't actually know what, what people say to you. Say, oh yeah, it's really good, but then as far as that you could walk off and they could go, yeah, no, it's a piece of shit. So you don't know. So to her, good things.
Of course,
is a positive.
No, totally. And I think like you were saying about, before we came on, about not being a businessman with regards to your artwork. I don't think you need to be. I don't think any of us really need to be. All we need to know is how to tell our story, why we're making.
I've sold quite a lot of work over the years. And I've never really gone out to look for work. It's always been people coming to me for it. So, I think if I was a businessman, I'd probably do pretty well. I think of, how much work I've sold just in this town over the years. But fortunately, that's one set of skills I do not have. And,
well, you never know, man. Retirement, you might become a businessman in retirement.
The wife will be like, you've got to do this, you've got to do that.
Oh, no. You won't actually be making anything by that point. Honestly, I feel you there. My voice every time. No, well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and like having a chat.
Inviting me.
No, of course, of course. And I want to, as I said before, once these restrictions and everything's lifted and we're back to a sense of normality, I'd love to get you more involved with this space and the Brickworks, and whether we get yourself running some workshops or something. I think I could fully see yourself, please stop me if I'm wrong, as a teacher or in a position where you're showcasing your skill and
I've given demonstrations before, and as I said earlier, I used to teach sort of one-on-one students.
100%.
So that'd be good.
I can see it. You know what I mean? Like yourself passing over the knowledge and the skill set that you have, which is vast and very detailed, to not play on the pun. And so I'd love to share that through this space in some capacity. Hopefully we can.
I mean, so long as people enjoy what they're doing, and I think anybody who sees any improvement is going to be enjoying what they're doing. And I'm still improving. After 30 years, I'm still improving on a picture by picture basis.
Totally.
And if I do a picture and it's not, and I don't see an improvement, that's when I'm disappointed. I like to try and make every picture better than the last.
That constant improvement, I think, is vital. Having that constant improvement at no matter stage of your career you're at. No, it's a very nice tone to end it on, I think. But so do you have social media, like where you share your work?
I've got Facebook.
Okay.
So my website is down. I haven't had a website for a few years, but I am hoping, as we said earlier, I'm hoping to get a new website up at some point.
Wrangle.
Not too distant future. But I've got Facebook.
Cool.
And I've got Instagram.
Cool. I'll make sure I put them all down in the description and all those things. But no, as I said, it's been a pleasure having you on and sharing some of your stories about your work, man.
Great.
So, to everyone listening or watching this podcast, make sure you go check out Damian's work. It's honestly incredible. The detail and the fine detail in all the work as well. Like, I'm going to go look at some later. But yeah, all the links and stuff will be down in the description below this video, or if you're watching on Spotify as well. So, as I say at the end of every podcast, guys, it's a crazy world out there. make sure you take care of yourself, keep your spirits up, especially right now, and look after your loved ones. That's a nice somber note to end it on, I think.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's nice.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. Peace.